That's the first time I've seen light in 2 months. Jesus. Hi, I'm. I know it's been a while. I'm Numu, and welcome to the chair at my desk under a lamp inside the box in the middle of everything. I'm afraid this is about as far as we'll be able to see for a while, so I hope you'll bear with me and only me. You caught me dwelling on something, or starting to dwell on it. Back in the day, before I voluntarily trapped myself in here, I used to drift between local writing circles. I've had some memorable encounters, read some impressionable pieces, and wrote a couple myself. It was a different time, a spring full of weeds and wildflowers, and this probably won't be the last time you hear me talk about it. When you sat down to read and review the pieces you were given, you could always count on a few things. Someone punching above their weight, a fair few punching well below it, and lots of mad self-service. But what's a growing writer to do? We all thought we were the second coming of Dickens or Tolkien, and before we cared about writing something solid, we cared about praise, recognition, and our peers wanting more. God, how many times did someone try and peddle, "I wanted more," as an actual compliment or criticism? What I'm saying is, sharing comes with its fair share of hangups, and the only way to hop those hurdles is by sharing and taking what comes next on the chin. Okay, so we're doing this. This is The Devil Likes Board Games. Almost a decade ago, let me shudder through the unforgiving march of time real quick, we were given a prompt to make a story to share in 8 pages. My first thought was, that's not a lot. My second thought was, but I can definitely scrunch a prologue in there. The corners of my mouth curled in on themselves like the fucking Grinch on Christmas, and I started constructing a monument to my unmatched literary genius. The first chapter in what would be a 12-chapter novel, knowing good and well that chapters 2 and 12 would never come to be. I needed a narrative, setting, and characters peppered with hooks and intrigue. But it was also only the prologue, so I couldn't hand out any answers just yet. Oh no, of course not. That would come later, after I won the unfiltered adoration of all of my peers and our organizer. Young and experienced Numu knew we had more of these coming up too, so it was the perfect plan. I'd drip feed my captive audience chapter after chapter, month after month, and take their amiable brains by storm, and it all started right here. With a group of amnesiac criminal high schoolers, personalized death games, and eternal damnation. I doubt I need to elaborate on the premise any more than that. Those 3 points, and you know what we're getting into. I'm rolling my eyes too, don't you worry. I had to fight to keep my eyes from rolling back in my own skull as I was giving it an honest pass through. If I wrote anything this pretentious and blatantly one-handed nowadays, I'd wind up vomiting in my lap, curling into a ball, and crying on the floor until the sun exploded. The first paragraph is the main character telling you their name, their occupation, their history, the roots of their inevitably exploited trauma, and that day something strange happened that had changed their life forever. That alone put a forehead-shaped crater in my desk. I should have known better than that. Show, don't tell. I was so obviously interested in getting people invested in who their POV was so I could shock them with their downfall that I didn't establish them as either a character or a worthy protagonist, and worse, I used a cliché! Their self-proclaimed backstory is shallow and doesn't stoke feelings for them. The weak-ass saw trap they start the story in lets them free a few lines into them realizing they're in one, under the pretense of keeping them stuck and still and not actually harming them, when they were already trapped in a room without a door. The devil is a caricature, their motivation is shallow, the other sinners are non-characters, the cool, brooding one who took the lead, the girl, the loud, obnoxious girl who talks down to everyone, and the big guy who keeps to himself. But none of these characters get any time to be or do anything, because as soon as the main character joins them, he leaves the characters I found no shame in obviously conveying my boredom and disinterest in, and goes off to play a titular board game with the titular devil. And it ends on a fucking title card stinger. This is a brazenly self-absorbed 8-page piece of nothing happening. In pursuit of making something people would cling to and contemplate in a fever before anything else, I made something hollow, brittle, and with no benefit to anyone who would read it. My idea was just so cool, you have to understand, he said with bleeding irony. I'm not the type who can write in boundaries as small as that, so I had to lay out a bigger picture with what little space I had, he said, having not actually accomplished any of that at all. And this is my proof that I've gotten better, and that someone who was able to share something as shameless as this should be able to share the things I make now. I was proud of myself, confident. I had more than a decade of writing under my belt, and it sure as hell doesn't show here. It makes me wonder how many other young Numos need a hit on their wrist and to get out of their own heads. It's probably a lot. This place is supposed to be a hub, a nexus of worlds and creative thoughts passing in and out through me, and it can't be that if we don't open up and take our failures on the chin. And as remiss as I am to keep going, the failures don't stop there. What bothers me more than the quality or lack thereof of the story itself is the arrogance surrounding every part of it. These are not the words of someone looking to learn, experiment, and express themselves as fully as they can. These are the words of someone who mistreats the time, effort, and critique of others because they want to convince them through an incredibly short story that they really would rather be reading a novel by young Numu's hands. I resent this. I reject it and every notion it carries. And so this next section, fresh from the About the Piece section our organizer asked us to write, will be unabridged and uninterrupted. First and foremost, I am a novelist. I thrive in opportunities where I can flesh out a story and create something on a grand scale with a grand scheme. However, when drafting a short story, I have to dial it back. I tend to be long-winded, and even then the content must be cut back ever so slightly again to make it digestible for readers who I have not gained investment from. The Devil Likes Board Games is a project I have planned for the future, as a change of pace. I drafted a portion of the first chapter in order to present the concept and try my hand at explaining the rules of the game I had in mind. There are no special meanings to this writing, no great metaphorical significance or hidden messages. I don't wish to come anywhere remotely close to annoying my readers with an overload of metaphorical garbage that can't possibly make sense on the first read through. Therefore, I structure all of my stories, and planned to structure this one, with the intent to focus heavily on creating a world interesting enough to dissuade anyone from delving into any sort of hidden meanings that were never present in the first place. I aim to create pieces which readers can get the same level of interest, enjoyment, and understanding as I do, as easily as possible, and this one is no exception. And it's lines of thought like that I want to grab in my hands and wring out, because they need to be corrected. If you are creating something, you are doing so to express. If that something isn't created in earnest, if it is by your own appraisal insignificant, if it is more interested in coaxing interest out of those who consume it instead of providing them something substantial, then you didn't create that thing in good faith. You made art with the goal of receiving the most pleasure possible for the least amount of effort. This is not a story you wrote to be admired. It's a splatter of poor concepts and empty promises that was made so others would admire you. You made this to prey on potential thoughts of what could be, but never will be, and, young Numu, that means this has no artistic merit at all, and is trash. The silver lining on all this? I couldn't make something this awful now if I tried. Because somewhere along the way to where I am now, creation stopped being about gratification. I stopped needing validation, and for the things I made to be called good. God, did everyone love giving out their praises. I took a lot of pride in making sure those powwows never turned into circle jerks. But that's a story for another time. The main character's sin, that he was being secretly tried for eternal damnation for committing, was being trans and sleeping around. It's revealed during his incredibly boring, poorly directed, awfully choreographed, and unstylized Jenga battle with the devil by him begging for mercy with, and I quote, meek femininity. And the kicker? The last paragraph is effectively exclamations from the devil talking about how he's going to get to the bottom of this exciting revelation. And then the story ends on what I guess I thought at the time would pass as a cliffhanger. And to a point, I admire the me from back then. I admire that I could be so lost in my own confidence that I'd proudly share something like this. Because now I'm much better, bigger, I have a stronger voice, more honed skills, a platform where I have so much freedom and can receive so much feedback. A platform I can share with other creative people to the end of helping creatives at every level learn and grow, and I'm just sitting here in the dark. Because if you don't have one hand in your lap, there's no guarantee for release. And for all the confidence we have, we're still skittish about taking on any kind of pedestal. Because now that we don't think we're the greatest growing creative talent of our generation, we think we're decidedly average, and therefore our words aren't worth anyone else's time. Is that the kind of message you want to push onto our audience, boss? There is nothing more insensitive that a creator can do than say the things they make aren't worth anyone's time. Even this travesty means something to someone. That someone's us, sure, but give me some slack. If we are to wrongfully assume that we are the average, not the median, the mean, then we have the absolute pleasure of being looked down upon by just as many people who look up to us. Actually, if those are equal, then we would be the median. The insensitivity of the author is a curse, and everyone has to overcome it. But we, sadly, are a very sensitive person. And that ability to receive and honestly, carefully, earnestly take in, digest, and give out is a fucking superpower nowadays. It's one that, by all accounts, has to be used for good. What's the most important thing we learned in those workshop circles? How to take a punch? And I don't want to be the one to say it, but taking damage and healing is the only way to sharpen up. If all we did is dodge and deflect, we'd still be writing stories like that. We didn't always hide in the dark, but we are now. And who exactly is that doing favors? No one. And just think how good this story could have been if young Numu had what we have now. 2 hands that want nothing more than to... Let's put him in bed and spruce this place up. Once he's awake, we won't have time to clean.